Early in the morning, 3 boys were on their way to school when one of them spotted a backpack lying next to a construction site. The kid who saw it immediately pointed it out to his friends and said, "Hey, check out that bag over there. You think there's something valuable inside?" Naturally, the 3 of them walked over together. One of them reached down and unzipped it. The moment they saw what was inside, they bolted. No questions asked. They ran straight to the nearest police station. This happened back in 1994, in the city of Philadelphia. The 3 kids stormed into the precinct, visibly shaken and out of breath. The officers asked, "What's going on, boys?" One of the kids, still trembling, said, "We found a body. A chopped-up body. In a backpack." The officers told them to calm down and explain everything clearly. Once they heard the details, they didn't waste a second. A squad car went straight to the location the boys described. The kids were still in high school and lived in a working-class neighborhood in North Philly. When the police got to the scene, they found the bag. By then, a crowd had already gathered around it. It was chaos. The officers pushed through, opened the bag, and were stunned by what they found. Inside the backpack was the dismembered torso of a young girl. Her body was already decomposing. The way she had been cut apart was animalistic. Whoever did this wasn't just a killer, this was a monster. The backpack was one of those large, industrial plastic ones. Detectives and forensic teams showed up within minutes. From the condition of the remains, they estimated the girl was under 18. They began combing the entire area where the body was found, looking for any kind of clue. But they came up empty-handed. No weapon, no ID, no blood trail, nothing. Their only lead was the boys who found the bag. The detectives brought them back to the precinct and questioned them. "Did you see anyone around the bag? Any car parked nearby?" The boys answered honestly. "No, sir. It was just sitting there. All by itself." That's when the cops realized they were dealing with something serious, and something very, very difficult. They had no idea who the girl was or who could have done this. The body was taken to the city morgue for an autopsy and identification. The first thing they tried was fingerprinting. But the results were shocking. The girl had no records. No ID. No school registration. Nothing. No fingerprints in the system. No driver's license. Not even a birth certificate. This made the case even harder to solve. Without knowing who she was, how could they find the person who killed her? The police shifted tactics. They started going through missing persons reports, comparing every reported runaway or missing girl whose description even remotely matched. But nothing matched. Not a single missing persons report described a girl that resembled the victim. So they decided to try something else. They took a photo of the girl's face. Her body was decomposing, but her facial features were still visible. They printed the photo and started going door to door. They showed the image to people in shelters, diners, high schools, anyone who looked like they might recognize her. Day 1, Day 2, Day 3, nothing. They kept searching. Days turned into weeks. Then came the autopsy report. The forensic pathologist confirmed she was 17 years old. Still legally a minor. Back in 1994, minors didn't have state ID unless they got it voluntarily. The report also showed that she was strangled. Killed by hand. But it didn't stop there. She was sexually assaulted before she was murdered. And the most chilling detail? The killer had kept her body hidden for at least 3 days before dumping it. This wasn't just a murderer. This was a psychopath. The police knew they were racing against time to catch him. A month later, a man walked into the precinct. His name was Omar, 58 years old. He looked worn out and heartbroken. He said, "I'd like to report my daughter missing." The cops were stunned. A month had passed and no one had reported a girl matching the victim. "Why now?" "I live outside the city, in a small town near Lancaster. My daughter worked here in Philly, for a wealthy family in a big house. She cleaned and helped around. I came once a month to collect her paycheck. This morning, I went to the house like usual, but the lady of the house told me, 'We fired your daughter.' That was a month ago, the exact same week you last came by for her paycheck." Omar blinked. "You fired her?" "Yes. We caught her stealing money from the house. It wasn't the first time, either. We let it slide before, but this time we had to let her go." Omar stood frozen, silent. "I didn't hear anything about this," he said finally. "I've been searching for her nonstop ever since. I asked around, checked with family, anyone who might have seen her. Nothing. She just vanished." The officers asked him, "Do you have a photo of your daughter?" Omar nodded and pulled out a small picture from his worn wallet. The detectives looked closely, their expressions turning grim. There was no doubt, the girl in the photo was the same one they'd found in the backpack. To be absolutely certain, they asked Omar to come with them to the city morgue. There, they showed him the body, well, what was left of it. They had covered the worst of it. Only her face was visible. The rest had been too mutilated, too disturbing. Omar stepped into the room. One look was all it took. He collapsed to the ground, crying out in pure agony. The sound that came out of him wasn't normal, it was the kind of grief that tears straight through your chest. Officers rushed to help, trying to calm him. People gathered. They brought him water. They gave him space. Eventually, when he had calmed down enough to speak, they started asking questions. "Where exactly is the house your daughter worked at?" Omar gave them the address. Police immediately drove over to the house. When they knocked, a woman answered the door, same woman Omar had spoken of. The detectives showed her the photo. "Do you recognize this girl?" She stared at it for a moment and then nodded. "Yes. That's Fatima. She worked here for a while. Her father used to come by every month for her paycheck." The detectives pressed her. "Why did you fire her?" The woman looked uncomfortable. She had sticky fingers. "A few times, money went missing. We let it go the first time. But last time, we confronted her. Told her to pack her things and leave. We said if she didn't, we'd call the cops." "What did she say?" "She panicked. She just grabbed her stuff and left. That was the last time we saw her." One of the officers sighed. "You should have reported this. She was a minor. You don't just throw a young girl out onto the street without telling someone." The woman lowered her head. "We didn't want to cause problems for her father. He seemed like a simple man. We didn't want to ruin her future. But the damage had already been done." The detectives looked her in the eye. "Do you realize that the day you kicked her out is the day she was murdered?" The woman went pale. Her lips trembled. I didn't know. I never imagined. Who would do that to her?" That's when she remembered something. There was a man. A broker. He was the one who brought her to us. He knew her. He might know where she went after she left here. That lead was enough for the cops to act. They tracked down the man, a middle-aged guy who ran an informal staffing service from his home. They showed him the photo. He recognized her immediately. "Yeah, I know her. Fatima. She came with her father. He asked me to find her work, and I placed her with that family. Was that the last time you saw her? No, the broker replied. About a month ago, she came by again. Said the family had kicked her out and she didn't know where to go. Did she say why they kicked her out? No, she wouldn't talk about it. Just said they didn't want her around anymore. I asked her if she had anywhere to stay. She said no. What did you do? I told her there wasn't any work right now, and this city's not safe for a young girl with no place to go. I told her to go back home, to her village. She said she didn't have bus fare. So I gave her a little money, whatever I had in my pocket. Told her not to stick around. It wasn't safe. The detectives returned to the station. At this point, they had two theories. Either someone she met after leaving that broker's house had killed her, or the family she worked for wasn't telling the whole story. They got a warrant and returned to the mansion to search the entire place. First stop, the maid's quarters. They combed through every inch, looked for blood, fingerprints, any sign of violence. But the room was spotless. They expanded the search to the entire house. Top to bottom. Kitchen, attic, garage. Nothing. No sign that Fatima had ever been harmed there. At the end of the sweep, the police were forced to admit it. The family had told the truth. They may have kicked her out, but they hadn't killed her. But they did learn something else. Apparently, Fatima had developed a reputation. People said she had a habit of snooping around, and helping herself to money that wasn't hers. The family who had hired Fatima said they caught her stealing quite a bit of money, again. That's why they told her to pack up and leave. And that's exactly what she did. She gathered her things and walked out the door. But the police kept circling back to the same question. Where did she go that night? Where did Fatima end up? Because that very night was when she was murdered. 6 more months passed. The case had gone cold. 7 months total since the discovery of Fatima's remains in the bag. And then, something new. A man walked into the same Philadelphia precinct and reported his wife missing. He explained. I live in a neighborhood just west of the city. My wife and I got into a fight, a normal couple's fight, nothing serious. We argued, she got upset, packed her things and left. I figured she went to stay with her parents, like she usually does when we argue. He waited a day. She didn't return. I called her family. Her mother and father said they hadn't seen her. I asked friends, neighbors, no one had heard from her. He waited one more day, then decided it was time to report it to the police. The detectives started asking the usual questions. What's her name? Khadija. She's 23 years old. Do you have a photo? He handed them a picture from his wallet. The officer said, okay. If anything comes up, we'll let you know. The very next morning, something did. Word came in that a second backpack had been found, dumped behind a warehouse in the same neighborhood. Police rushed to the scene. The bag looked exactly like the first one. Same color. Same size. Same horror inside. A mutilated body, chopped up and stuffed in. Same method. Same precision. Same depravity. Even more chilling, it had been found just blocks away from where Fatima's body was discovered. That's when the investigators realized they were dealing with a serial killer. Same killer. Same mo. This wasn't random. This was a pattern. Forensics began combing the area again, but found nothing useful. No fingerprints. No DNA. No evidence left behind. Then came the twist. The photo that man had given the detectives yesterday? It matched. The woman in the new bag was Khadija, his wife. The police called the husband back in immediately. "We need you to come down to the morgue," they told him. "Bring her family." He arrived within the hour, visibly anxious. They took him inside alone. According to procedure, he was the only one allowed to view the body. But the moment he saw her, he screamed. The kind of scream that breaks walls. Outside the viewing room, her family heard it, and they lost it. Her mother, father, siblings, they all began to wail, yelling her name, collapsing to the floor. Then the anger began. Her father turned on the husband, shouting, "You did this! You killed her! You're the monster!" The police had to step in, calm the scene down, and immediately separated the husband. He wasn't allowed to leave. They brought him in for questioning again. Same story. We argued. She left. I never saw her again. He swore he had nothing to do with it. He looked shaken, confused, even heartbroken. But the detectives weren't sure what to believe. So they drove out to his house. They searched everything: bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, garage. They even pulled up floorboards. But the place was clean. No blood. No suspicious tools. No signs of struggle. Just a normal home. Meanwhile, the autopsy came back on Khadija. And what they found sent chills down everyone's spine. The exact same cause of death as Fatima. Strangled. Sexually assaulted. Kept hidden for 3 days. Then dumped. Same method. Same sick timeline. This wasn't just a killer, this was a ritual. And it confirmed one major thing for police. The husband was off the hook. Because if he had killed Khadija, that would mean he also killed Fatima 7 months earlier. And that was impossible. So, they let him go. But now, they knew for sure. They had a serial killer on their hands. The most important question on everyone's mind was, who the hell is doing all this? At the time, the news was all over the local news. The police had found 2 bodies, 7 months apart. The city now knew the whole story. Everyone was talking, especially the residents of the surrounding area. Families were terrified, especially fathers and mothers with their daughters. On the morning the second body was found, a man from the neighborhood came forward. He said that on that particular morning, just after sunrise, right after he returned from far prayers, he had seen something strange. He told the police, "I was returning home, one ordinary morning, when I saw an elderly man, probably in his early 60s, riding a motorcycle. In front of him was a huge wooden box. What surprised me was his appearance. He was very tense, as if he was carrying something he shouldn't be carrying. He kept looking around, as if someone was watching him. At first, the witness didn't pay much attention. I thought he might have been late for something, or maybe he was just being strange. But as soon as I heard about the body found nearby, I realized what was going on. This man wasn't just acting strange, he was actually suspicious. The man thought about it for 4 days. He couldn't shake this feeling. The more the news spread, the more he realized he had to say something. So he went straight to the police station and told the police everything. The police asked him, "Are you sure this man lives near you?" He said, "Yes, not 2 blocks away. I know his house." That was enough for the police. They followed the man to the address and knocked on the door. Moments later, an elderly man, white-haired, about 62, opened the door. He seemed calm. The officers greeted him respectfully. "Good morning, Mr. Martin. Would you mind accompanying us to the police station? We just want to clarify something. He raised an eyebrow. What's the matter? They said, it's nothing serious, we just need to talk. And if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to worry about. At the station, they began questioning him. Name? Martin Hayes. 62. So, Mr. Hayes, on the morning of, insert date, someone saw you on your motorcycle, carrying a large wooden box. What was inside? Martin froze. The color drained from his face. His eyes darted around the room, taking in each officer one by one. I wasn't out that morning, he said quickly. I'm sick. My nerves are on edge. I don't wake up early, I take medication. But the police didn't believe it. They could smell a lie a mile away. Okay, Martin, they said. Let's take a look at your house. They drove back to his house. The officers went in, and immediately, something seemed off. There was a foul, pungent odor, like rotting flesh. One of the officers said it smelled like something dead had been in there for a while. They began searching the rooms. In the kitchen, they found a metal saw. A huge chopping knife. A cutting board stained with red paint. In the bathroom? A plastic tub with dried blood. One of the officers said, Martin, what the hell is this? Martin didn't say a word. He just stared. He knew he was done for. He went back to the station, and they sat him down again. Tell us, Martin. Why did you do it? Why did you kill that girl, Fatima, and that woman, Khadija? He slowly began to confess. He told them how Fatima, just 17 years old, had been walking alone that night after looking for work at an employment agency. They told her there were no vacancies, gave her a few dollars, and then she left. It was already late. There were no buses heading to her side of town, so she took a shortcut through the woods. That's where Martin saw her. He was riding his motorcycle, cruising the area, looking for something. Then he saw her. Young. Alone. Weak. He got off the bike. He walked over to her. He smiled. Hey, dear, he said. You shouldn't be out here at night. This forest isn't safe, there are bad people around. Fatima hesitated. He kept going. If anyone saw you out here, you'd be in danger. Let me walk you to the road at least. He looked like an ordinary old man. Calm. Safe. But what she didn't know was what he was hiding in that box on his bike. He told her bluntly, you're too young and too pretty to stay here alone. Something could happen to you. Did you have a fight with your parents or something? Fatima looked down and nodded. The man, older, with a gray beard but a calm demeanor, gently escorted her to his scooter. She said she'd been working for a family in the city, but they'd fired her. She was just waiting for the next bus to come home in the morning. He said, listen, sweetheart, you can't sleep outside like this. I live alone a few blocks away. I have a spare room. You can rest there tonight, and I'll make you breakfast in the morning before you leave. No conditions, I promise. I had a daughter your age. I just want to help. Fatima agreed, feeling weak and grateful. She climbed onto the back of his scooter, and off they went. They arrived at his house. He parked the scooter, talked quietly, and told her a few stories to make her feel safe. She followed him inside, walked to the spare room, and fell asleep, exhausted. But Frank, his name wasn't asleep. He stood silently outside her door for nearly an hour and a half. Listening. Waiting. When he heard her fall asleep, he quietly entered. He was holding a thick rope. He jumped on her, wrapped it around her head, and muffled her screams. He held her. He assaulted her. He kept her locked in that room for nearly 3 days, until the smell began to rise. Then he got rid of her. The exact same thing happened to Khadija a few days later. Khadija's husband went to the police, claiming she had left after a fight. He said she had packed up and left. But investigators soon discovered that wasn't true. He had beaten her, shouted at her, and thrown her out. With nowhere else to go, Khadija knocked on her father's door. But her father told her, "You always bring trouble here. Go and sort out your problems with your husband." She had no one. No place to stay. She walked until nightfall and sat on a bench in a dark alley near the train tracks. That's when Frank appeared again. He saw her sitting alone and, as before, offered to help her. She told him her story. He nodded. "Come on," he said. "You'll stay with me tonight." "It's okay." What Fatima did, Jadida is doing now. After Frank, also known as Frank Collins, was arrested, he confessed to the crimes. When the investigators asked him why he did it, his answer terrified everyone in the room. He said, "My mother died when I was young. My father married a horrible woman. She abused me, mentally and physically. I grew up hating women. I couldn't stand them. Every time I saw one of them in pain, it felt justified." He said he never trusted women, never wanted a relationship, and only felt calm when he was in control of himself. After months of trials, the judge sentenced Frank Collins to death, life imprisonment. This story happened in 1994. More than 30 years have passed since then, but its memory still haunts the city. The lesson? Never trust someone just because they seem nice. Evil often pretends to be friendly. Take your time getting to know people. Don't assume.